ladies and gentlemen. I am Rahman, and I am here because my last name is the same. I am Mr. Rahman. I am quite sure that quite a few in the audience who share this surname, but since I was sitting in the front row, courtesy Mohammed Hanif, because he agreed to interview people, to write about them, and we are only the facilitators of a journey to spare. This is only one aspect of the situation in Balochistan. There are many other aspects, but we think that in terms of humanitarian concerns and matters that should prick the conscience of the people of this country, this publication should make a contribution. So I think I would hand over to Mohammed Hanif, with my request.
Thank you, Rahman Sahab. I was going to make some joke about Moderator having gone missing, but even but even I couldn't make myself laugh at it. We've all kind of grown up reading Rahman Sahab and has learned whatever little I know and lots of my friends who know from it. But sometimes you're asked to do something, or you kind of start doing something that you don't even know what it's going to be like. So usually I'm a lazy journalist, so usually what I do is that I recycle myself. I would write a piece in Urdu and then I would recycle it in English. But by the time I was done writing these 6 stories, I couldn't read them again after having proofread them, because I remember proofreading them and thinking, my God, there's like not like one moment of relief in it. Usually every journalist who is kind of trained to write an 800 word or 1,000 word piece, they all know the tricks of the trade. That at least in the 3rd paragraph there would be one line which would kind of provide you some relief. There would be some splash of local color. But it wasn't. So I had to ask my friends, Mustullah Khan Saab, who's a great senior BBC journalist, and a young poet, Sayyid Kashif Raza, friends of mine. So they have done a brilliant translation. And Rahman Saab helped with the title, which is called Ghaibistan Mein Baloch. So I will start, I will read you one of these stories, and then we will talk about it. Rahman Saab has done a brilliant, stunning introduction. And I don't think, and Rahman Saab has mentioned it, that this is probably the most dignified protest in the history of Pakistan, at least in my lifetime. Baloch Saab, who is the vice chairman of the Voice Missing Baloch persons, he sits there for 3 months in Karachi, 3 months in Lahore, 3 months in Islamabad, with young kids, basically, girls who are supposed to be studying in Quetta University. They are enrolled there, but they can't go there because her brother has been gone for 5 years. There's another girl who comes out to these protests but can't tell her teachers that why she isn't coming to these classes, because if she says that basically her life is just about sitting at a protest camp, then what would the teachers think of her? So, and what happens is, and Rahman Sahib, when you're protesting, what are you protesting for? You're protesting for something. So everybody who's there, they have a brother or a husband or a son who was picked up by intelligence agencies. And when I say intelligence agencies, I'm not being a lazy journalist. There is piles and piles and piles of paperwork. Am I exaggerating? No. There's a pile and piles of paperwork, court orders, affidavits by sitting MNAs, which prove that that's exactly what has happened. So these people are protesting for them to be released, to come back. But Baloch Saab's son, who had been missing for 2 years, was found dead, was shot and killed. At this point, people usually leave the protest camp and go home. Because why would you protest for somebody who's been killed, who you have buried? Or, if you're lucky, you might get your person back. And again, the same thing happens. People would leave the protest camp and go home because they've found what they were asking for. And also, as Rahman Sahib said, he's talked to many more people than I have, that they come back only with this message, that no, never again. I don't want to be anywhere near this thing. People who've been missing people for a very long time, and when they come back, they don't want to go missing again. So they kind of go missing. We never hear from them. We'll never see them on TV ever. You'll never kind of read their stories in newspapers because they don't want to go through that thing again. So I'll just read you a little bit from Baloch Saab's story and his son. So that's one Baloch in one of these 6 Baloch who is not missing anymore, for the simple reason that he's dead. Two days before last Eid al-Adha, Qadir Baloch, a retired UBL employee from Quetta, did something that no family man should have to do. He held his 5-year-old grandson's hand and took him to see his dead father's body. Qadir Baloch made sure that the kid got a good look at his father Jalil Breaki's bullet-riddled, badly mutilated body. Qadir Baloch also had a chat with the boy and told him who had killed his father and why. For 3 years, Qadir had been lying to the boy. When Jalil was picked up, the boy was only 2, says Qadir Baloch. He also had a hole in his heart, and the doctors had told us not to put him under any kind of stress. So for 3 years, I kept telling him that his father was away on business. Qadir speaks in myriad sentences. There is no bitterness or anger in his voice. His account of his son's disappearance and death 3 years later is incredibly detailed. His habit of producing a document or a date or an affidavit to witness to prove his point will put many reporters to shame. The FIR he registered names former ISI Chief General Pasha as the main accused in his son's disappearance and death. Jalil was the information secretary of Baloch Republican Party, a small group that emerged after Nawab Akbar Bukhti's Jamhuri Watan Party split into many factions after his murder. Jalil was offered the post of Secretary General, but he was a bit bookish, always interested in reading and writing, so he decided to become the party's information secretary. They came for him to pick up trucks in 2 unregistered cars, FC men accompanied by intelligence officials in plain clothes. His friends had warned him that he was about to be picked up, but he was campaigning for his other missing colleagues. He said, "If I run away, who is going to write all these press releases?" He was coming back after saying his Friday prayers. He saw them and tried to run, but they threatened to shoot him, and he surrendered. For the next 3 years, Jalil Reiki became a missing person. There are thousands, if you believe the Baloch nationalists, hundreds according to the human rights organizations, and none according to our intelligence agencies. Rahman wrote 2 years ago, instead of offering the embittered Baloch redress and satisfaction, the authorities have chosen to quibble over the numbers of missing persons or alleged exaggeration about women amongst them. For Qadir Baloch, Jalil Reiki wasn't a stat, nor were the other activists who were missing. He rallied the families of missing people and started an organization called Voice of the Baloch Missing People. They camped outside the Quetta, Islamabad and Karachi press clubs, sometimes for 3 months. Journalists mostly ignored them. They sit behind rows of photos of their martyred and missing. Most of the missing people are in their 20s and 30s. Jalil Reiki has a rakish smile, a moustache, and deep eyes of someone who thinks a lot. I talked to him about his political activities. I knew what he was doing was dangerous, but he told me he was doing it for his people, for his land. He said he wasn't selling heroin or doing anything immoral, and I understood. Qadir Baloch himself was politically active as a NAB member in the 70s and remembers those days fondly when they only filed a case against you, arrested you, you tried to get a bail. None of this stuff where a person just disappears from the face of this earth. In the years that Jalil was missing, he was able to talk to his family only once. It was around Eid time and all the officers were away. Some poor soldier took pity on him. We received a call on our landline and someone said, "Put 1,000 rupee balance on a mobile number and then wait for a call." I went to 2 shops and bought the balance for 500 rupees each. We received a call late in the night. Jalil told us not to pass this number on to anyone. He sounded confident. He said that they had punished him a lot. I understood that he had been tortured. His wife started to cry. His son was only 2.5 years old. He didn't understand what was going on. He told me not to beg anyone for his release. I was sure they'd let him go, because killing him would serve no purpose. Qadir Baloch would remain certain for another 2 years before he saw his son's body. Meanwhile, he kept getting reports of his sightings from other Baloch activists who were released after spending 2 to 3 years in the military-run dungeons. They used to take turns giving the azan, Qadir says with a certain pride. And after finishing the azan, after saying La ilaha illallah, they would announce their name as if it was a part of the azan, so that the other prisoners would know that who you were and you were still alive, so that if they ever got out, they could tell your families that you were alive. All these years, Qadir Baloch never doubted that his son would not return. He would be battered, bruised, and probably physiologically damaged, but he would be alive. That's what I believed, he says. Qadir filed cases, tried to lobby the media, turned up for the hearings conducted by a judicial commission set up to investigate the cases of the missing people. A colonel came up to me at one of these hearings and said that we really feel bad for you. you are an old man. Qadir was courteous. I said, if you really feel bad for me, you should let my son go. And they reassured me that if my son was a political activist, he would be released. Qadir believed them, but kept up his activities as the coordinator of the voice Baloch missing people. Then 2 years and 3 months after his son had been taken away, Jalil Reiki stopped being a missing person. He became a dead person. A badly mutilated, shot in the heart, dead person.
You see, these stories are related to Baloch aspirations for autonomy. And many people in Pakistan think that there are wrong kind of people leading the youth of Balochistan. They are taking Balochistan out of Pakistan. But we, the rest of the country, do not ever consider whether we include Baloch within Pakistan. We do include Gwadar, we do include Rekodek, we do include Golan Pass. But the people who reside in those areas, we hardly ever consider them Pakistanis. And this is the tragedy that these people are facing. And I would like to ask Mohammed Hanif, because the idea of this publication started when he wrote a column in Dawn. And then, we decided that if we could have more of this, then perhaps it will be possible to take Pakistani people out of the number game. Because they are very adept at playing that game. 10 killed, 12 killed, 200 disappeared. But 10 or 20 or 12 or 200 are human beings. And in these stories, they are not asking the state to give them anything which belongs to the state. They are only asking to be given back what belonged to them. Their life, their personality, their identity, their dreams, their hopes, their worries, their anxieties. And for years, they have been camping outside the press clubs in Islamabad. They have been demonstrating outside press club in Quetta. They have been demonstrating in Karachi. You see, Lahore is a bit distant from them. And Lahore is also quite well fed and looked after. So therefore, but I would like to ask you, what made you write that first story? What attracted you?
Laziness, basically. My office is right across from Press Club Karachi, where they were camping. But before that, one of my colleagues, Sharjeel Baloch, he studied in Quetta, medicine. So he's one of our video editors, and he was editing something. And he showed me, he said, he was my senior in college, this boy. And then now that boy is up in the mountains after having been missing for a long time. So he recognized him. And then we started talking about his class, the year that he went to study medicine in Quetta. And within 15 minutes, he counted 5 boys from his class who'd been killed. Died from one class. And I was, what is going on? And then I was introduced to Qadir Mama as all his people. Some people call him missing Uncle Mama. And so I started talking to him. And as a journalist, I've never talked to anybody who has so much evidence, whatever your doubts might be, whatever you might think, that a person has a political agenda, but there can be no more pressing political agenda than your son having gone missing. And having believed all these years that what is the point of capturing somebody, kidnapping somebody, keeping him for 3 years, and then killing him. You know, people, जिंदगी मौत हम कहते हैं अल्लाह के हाथ में, जो किसी वजह से भी मर जाता है, सबको सब्र आ जाता है, जैसा भी हो. But waiting for 3 years for your son to return, for campaigning, for lobbying, and protest is only one part of it. You know, when your son goes missing, you go to everyone. If you know somebody in the police, you go to them. If you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody in the army or the intelligence agency, you go to them. If you are a citizen, you go to your local politicians. So having done all of that, when your son is returned to you with 3 bullets in his heart and all his back, kind of, you know, this almost like an artwork of torture, the way he describes it. He describes it without emotion. And what disturbed me was that I, being a journalist, no media organization, no TV channel, mostly no newspapers would ever write about this. The man is sitting right outside Karachi, press club. How easy can you make it for journalists that here I am, here is my story, here are my documents, go and confirm it from anybody that you want to confirm it with. And still, nobody, really nobody wants to write about it. And I try to play, sometimes, like most kind of journalists smiles, I get invited on TV shows once a month at least. So for about 6 months, I tried doing this thing, then I would be called, I'm not expert on anything. So I would be called on like any topic. Judiciary ka ye ho gaya hai, Nawaz Sharif ne ye keh diya, wo kar diya. And I would like say like a few sentences, and then I would try to revert it back to, but what about what happened today in Balochistan? And if you can even bother a little bit, and you just make one phone call, and you will know that something horrible just happened an hour ago, which should have been breaking news. That's what we should be talking about. But nobody would. So as a result, people stopped calling me. They thought that I was some kind of a joker who was always trying to tell them a Baloch joke when they were actually interested in something far more serious than, you know, whatever happens in Islamabad. So that's how and the remoteness that you mentioned. This same friend of mine, Shajib Baloch, he was in Lahore doing a video. So randomly he started going to the universities, Punjab University and other universities, and started asking kids, what do you know about Balochistan? And trust me, and what's going on in Balochistan? There were only about 3 kids who could name like the second city in Quetta. People only knew about that there is a Quetta and there's something bad happening there. India, we don't really know what who these people are or what's happening to them. Why are they doing it to us? Because we just think that they're separatists, right? You know, just because they want their son back, they want their son to stay alive. But for most Punjabis, that makes them, you know, sort of just what kind of weird people are these? They say that give us our son and you know, sort of stop torturing my child. That somehow translates, you know, with this distance, as if somebody is trying to harm Punjab. I never, I'm being a Punjabi myself, I've never understood that, the way do we get that from. And if towards the end, if you will allow me, I'll read a little poem about that sentiment as well.
But just one question that we discussed in Karachi also. That after a person has been picked up and he has been tortured and whatever they want to do with him, they have done. Then after 2 years, we discover his dead body, you know, with big holes, you know, all over the place. Why do they do that? If they have finished their business with the person, why do they kill him?
Before I answer that, there's one thing that struck me most. Because in Punjab, also kind of believe that पहले जो Bengali भाई थे वो भी कुछ ज़्यादा मुसलमान नहीं थे. And for the first time I've been to Dhaka and they're kind of as kind of Muslims as a... और ये तो है ही. There were two little sentences in this. Two people told me this different stories, and that probably tells us something. Although it's a little... I don't know why I keep obsessing about it. It's about buttons. I'm shirt pe button type. So there's one man whose son has been missing for about 8 years. And his son was a Hafiz. And they take him back and they dig a grave to try and prove that your son died. But he knows that his son didn't die because he saw 8 years ago that the body that was in that grave. So he knows, and they give him a set of clothes. And he tells me that my son, since he did Hifz Quran, उसने बटन वाली शर्ट पहननी छोड़ दी थी. उसने कभी शर्ट पे बटन नहीं पहना. So these can't be my son's clothes. It's as simple as that. This is his son. He knows what he wears. और दूसरी कहानी जो है, Farzana Malik, one of the bravest young women in Pakistan, her brother Zakir Majid. So how does he know that he is alive? Because he took a button off his shirt and sent it to his family to prove that he was still alive. So I don't really know what that tells us, but that tells us like how close people are to, sort of. And why did they kill him? There are two incidents where I asked the same question. Jalil Reiki they killed. They'd had him for 3 years, and Qadeeb Baloch has a clear answer that there was an attack on Shamalan. There was where about 40 or dozens of soldiers were killed, and one officer as well. And I remember this very clearly, this hesitation, because as a Muslim, as a father, as a whatever you call, जो भी लड़ाई में मरता है उसको कहते हैं शहीद. So Qadeeb Baloch साहब said कि उसमें 40 फौजी और एक मेजर शहीद. He said almost like he said shaheed, and then he stopped himself because he also calls his son a shaheed. So he stopped himself and he said कि वो उसमें हलाक हो गए थे. Now his son had been in custody for 3 years. And he's a very logical man. His assessment is now that they couldn't find who these people were who had attacked them. They killed their people. So they killed somebody who they already had. So there's no way for 3 years somebody who's in prison could have planned an attack on the army post. Similarly, there's a story here which I particularly like because it's about a journalist who became a uniform contractor, and his son has been missing for 2 years. And they were also picked up. They were working inside the cantonment in Noshki. A soldier was shot in the bazaar. These people, father and son, they were stitching army uniforms, sitting within the Noshki fort. And since it was very dangerous to go out in Noshki and find out that who's actually done it, but they had to fill in some forms, show some, as he said, recovery दिखानी थी. तो अब 2 बंदे जो पास बैठे हुए थे उन्होंने उन्हीं को उठा के अंदर जेल में जो है भेज दिया. So sometimes I think these things are well thought out, and sometimes these things are as random as that. And this is my theory, this has no political basis, that the Pakistani state and the army, it does what it can get away with, where they think there are no consequences, where they think that this is, this will never come back to haunt us. I used to joke with my friend after they killed Nawab Akbar Bhatti Sahib, because there was this puzzlement, why would anybody kill an 85-year-old man? He's been in and outside of the establishment. And I used to say, look, फौज जो है पंजाबियों को जाहिर नहीं मार सकती بیکاز اگر لاہور میں آپ کے اچرا کے اوپر اگر گن شپ ہیلی کاپٹر چلنا شروع ہو جائیں، فار ایگزامپل نواز شریف کا بھی پھڈا رہتا ہے، پوک لوگوں کا بھی فوج سے پھڈا رہا ہے، تو اگر اس لاہور سے آپ کے 200 بچے جو ہیں وہ غائب ہو جائیں اور آپ کو 1 سال تک ان کی خبر نہ آئے، سو آئی ڈونٹ تھنک آرمی کین گیٹ اوے ود اٹ. ٹھیک ہے، پٹھانوں کو مارتے ہیں تو وہ آگے سے مارتے ہیں اور زیادہ مارتے ہیں زور سے، تو ان کے ساتھ بھی مہاجروں کو مطلب مارا، پھر صلح کی، پھر مارا. اب ایک لگتا ہے کہ ان کے ساتھ بھی جو ہے یہ نہیں کر سکتے. سندھیوں کو وہ اتنی دفعہ مار چکے ہیں کہ وہ مذاق لگتا ہے. تو بچتا کون ہے پاکستان؟ کس کو مار سکتا ہے؟ بلوچ، کیونکہ ان کو پتا ہے کہ یہ آپ نے دیکھے ہوں گے یہ 4تھا یا 5واں آپریشن چل رہا ہے. جی میں it doesn't make any political sense, but to me it is that kind of logic that آپ اسی کو ماریں گے جو آگے سے آپ کو لگتا ہے کہ یہ اس کو کوئی نقصان نہیں ہوگا، یہ آگے سے مجھے کچھ نہیں کہہ رہا.
I think, although the program started late, but we are limited by time, and we take some questions.
Yes, please. In fact, یہاں پہ تربت سے کچھ لوگ جو ہیں آئے ہیں واپڈا ہاؤس کے سامنے ٹال کرنے. جی، تو ان میں سے کوئی بات کرنا چاہیں، اور بیچ میں نے پنجاب اور بلوچستان کے بارے میں ایک چھوٹی سی نظم بھی لکھی ہے، اگر ٹائم ہوا تو میں آپ کو یہ بعض دفعہ پچھلے سال جو سردار مینگل ہیں انہوں نے کہیں پہ کہا تھا، وہ سال میں ایک دفعہ بولتے ہیں تو اس پہ ناراض ہو جاتے ہیں سارے لوگ، تو اس کے بعد چپ کر جاتے ہیں. تو انہوں نے کہا تھا کہ فوج جو ہے وہ پنجابی، وچ از کائنڈ آف این اولڈ میتھ ان پاکستان، کہ فوج جو ہے پنجابی ہے. تو میں اس پہ سوچتا رہا، پھر مجھے خیال آیا کہ ایز اے پنجابی اینڈ ایز این ایکس فوجی میں نے کہا کہ سردار صاحب کو جواب دینا چاہیے. تو میں نے اس کے لیے ایک چھوٹی سی جعلی قسم کی نظم لکھی، اٹس ناٹ اے ریئل پوئم. اس کا نام ہے معصوم مینگل. تو اس میں ایک فوجی جو ہے وہ سردار مینگل کو جواب دے رہا ہے ان کی اس بات کا کہ فوج جو ہے وہ پنجابی ہے. آپ بڑے سردار ہیں، آپ کا بڑا احترام ہے، لیکن یہ کیا فرمایا آپ نے کہ فوج پنجابی ہے؟ لوزی ہے بھی گل کی تھی. آپ کہیں دوسرے سردار تو نہیں جو سکھوں میں ہوتے، سیدھی سی گل نہیں سمجھتے. آپ کی اس صوبائی عصبیت کو ختم کرنے کے لیے آپ کی کتنی نسلوں کو سبق پڑھایا، تو پھر بھی نہ سمجھے. جس مقدس کتاب پر ہاتھ رکھ کر سردار نوروز خان سے معافی کا وعدہ کیا، کیا وہ کتاب پنجابی میں تھی؟ جس رسی کا پھندا اس سردار کے بچوں کی گردن میں پڑا، کیا وہ رسی ہم نے لاہور سے بھیجی تھی؟ جس بھٹو کے آرڈر پر ہم نے بلوچوں پر بم برسائے، کیا وہ پنجاب کی جمپل تھا؟ جس مرد مومن کے گوڈے گٹے پکڑ کر تم لوگ کابل سے واپس آئے، کیا اس کے منہ سے کبھی پنجابی کا ایک لفظ سنا؟ اکبر بگتی کو جو میزائل لگا، کیا وہ ہم نے سیالکوٹ میں بنایا تھا؟ پھر کہتے ہو فوج پنجابی ہے. اگر آپ کے منہ سے لفظ اسلامی نہیں نکلتا تو کہہ دیتے کہ فوج عربی ہے، یا پھر کہہ دیتے کہ فوج چینی ہے. کیا کہا چینی کہاں ہے؟ سردار جی آپ فلمیں بڑی دیکھتے ہو، وہ بھی اپنے یار ہندوستانیوں کی. پھر تو فلم غالب بھی دیکھی ہوگی. ہم کہہ دو غالب بھی پنجابی کا. اصلی طریقہ کیا ہے کہ علامہ اقبال پنجابی تھا. ہم تو صرف یہ کہتے ہیں ہندوستان ہمارا، پاکستان ہمارا، مسلم ہیں ہم، بلوچستان بھی ہمارا. کل آپ کہیں گے ہمارا بم بھی پنجابی، حالانکہ کل عالم جانتا ہے ہمارا بم ماشاءاللہ مسلمان ہے. یقین نہیں آتا؟ ختنے چیک کر لو. اوے میرے پولے سردار، اوے بچیاں والے ہو، جب تمہاری اگلی نسلوں کی ہڈیاں تھل کے صحراؤں میں چمکیں گی تو پھر سمجھ آئے گی فوج نہ اردو نہ پنجابی نہ تواڈی نہ ساڈی، نہ نوری نہ ناری، نہ مومن نہ کافر، کدی اندر کدی باہر، کدی غائب کدی حاضر، کدی سجن کدی دشمن، کدی رونا کدی ہاسا، پھر سیاپا میرے بھولے سردار، فوج نہ اردو نہ پنجابی نہ سندھی نہ بلوچی، فوج اول آخر فوجی ہے.
Hello, this is Aisha. Here, Mr. Hanif, towards your left. Yeah, no, towards your right. First row, hello. Okay. This is Aisha, and I am one of your readers. But as you mentioned, that the students in Punjab are kind of alien to what's happening to the Baloch and what's happening in Balochistan. We also have target killings in Karachi. We also have missing people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. But I want to ask you, will this book, because it's in English and it will be read across the world, will it leave the readers with questions, or have you also answered the reasons behind these missing stories?
No, sadly I haven't answered, I haven't explained anything in this. I've just basically reported some family stories. I haven't answered anything. I think it's for the state to answer, it's for the media to answer, it's for all of us to answer. And we keep talking about FAUZ, and we keep talking about intelligence agencies, we keep talking about all of that. But I think as a society, and since I work in the media, so I think we kind of, as a society, as people who have sons and daughters and send them to school, مطلب صرف آپ یہ جاننے کی کوشش کریں کہ اگر آپ کا بچہ جو ہے، آپ میں سے کچھ لوگوں کے بچے ہوں گے وہ اسکول جاتے ہوں گے، اسکول میں چھٹی کا ٹائم ہوتا ہے، کراچی میں 1:20 پہ ہوتا ہے، تو اگر 1:40 تک آپ کا بچہ جو ہے اسکول کے گیٹ سے باہر نہیں آتا تو آپ پریشان ہو جاتے ہیں. اب اسکول کے اندر جائیں گے اور آگے سے اگر ٹیچر کہیں کہ نہیں بچہ تو چلا گیا گھر اور باہر بھی نہیں ہے اور اس کا کوئی دوست بھی فون نہیں اٹھاتا، تو آپ کی آدھے گھنٹے کے اندر کیا حالت ہوتی ہے. So to think that somebody can live in that situation for 8 years, for 10 years, for 3 years, and especially with the fear, because what happens is that they've seen کہ یہ بچے جو ہیں جب ملتے ہیں تو کیسے ملتے ہیں، روڈ سائڈ پہ 26 بلٹ ہولز کے ساتھ. So yes, I think it's for the state to answer, it's for us as media to answer. لیکن میرے پاس کوئی جواب نہیں.
یہاں سب سے اینڈ میں محمد علی صاحب.
جی
being myself from بلوچستان، مجھے بڑی خوشی کی کہ آپ نے یہ مسنگ جو ہمارے بھائی ہیں ان کے اوپر آپ ویسے پاکستانی قوم اور باقی دنیا کو تھوڑا سا آئیڈیا دینے کے لیے آپ نے بھی ذکر کیا اپنے کسی دوست شرجیل بلوچ صاحب کا کہ وہ لاہور میں یونیورسٹیز میں گئے اور انہوں نے وزٹ کیا تو انہوں نے جیسے سوالات کیے تو ایسے کچھ مطلب میجورٹی ایسی تھی جن کو یہ بھی نہیں پتا تھا کہ کوئٹہ بلوچستان میں دوسرا شہر یا اس کا نام کیا ہوگا. تو میں صرف تھوڑا سا ایڈ کرنا چاہتا تھا یا خواہش ہے ہماری کہ ایسی بھی کچھ بکس آئیں، ایسی کچھ ٹاک شوز میں تو آتا رہتا ہے، لوگ جاتے ہیں، اینکر جاتے ہیں بلوچستان وزٹ کر کے واپس آ جاتے ہیں.
کاش کے جاتے ہوتے، کوئی اینکر بلوچستان نہیں جاتا. 3 سال ہو گئے. یہ 2 مہینے پہلے، سوری میں صرف میڈیا کا میں کام کرتا ہوں، مجھے روز لوگوں سے باتیں کرنی پڑتی ہیں. جب پچھلی دفعہ ہزارہ جو ہوا تھا، یہ والا نہیں، اس سے پچھلی دفعہ والا تھا جی، اور ساتھ اسلام آباد میں طاہر القادری کا وہ چل رہا تھا. سلسلہ اور وہاں پہ لوگ راشن لے کے بیٹھے ہوئے تھے. میں نے بڑے ٹی وی چینل کے بڑے اچھے دوست کے ہیڈ سے پوچھا, میں نے کہا دل پہ ہاتھ رکھ کے کہو کہ تمہیں پتا ہے کہ 6 ہفتے بعد طاہر القادری کے بارے میں کوئی بات نہیں کرے گا, 6 ہفتے بعد اور شیعہ مریں گے, یا کوئٹہ میں مریں گے یا کہیں اور میں مریں گے, کیا یہ صحیح بات ہے یا نہیں؟ اس نے کہا یہ بالکل صحیح بات ہے. تو میں نے کہا کوئی جا کے کوئٹہ میں نہیں بیٹھتا؟ اس نے کہا نہیں کر سکتے. بس
تو یہی اسی طرف میں آ رہا تھا کہ وہ ایک تاثر جو پورے پاکستان کو دیا جاتا ہے ہمارے بارے میں, جیسے آپ نے بات کی کہ بلوچستان ہمارا تب ہے جب ریکارڈنگ کی بات ہوتی ہے, بلوچستان ہمارا تب ہے چمالنگ کی بات ہوتی ہے, تب ہے جب گیس کی بات ہوتی ہے. جو ہم ادھر اسلام آباد, لاہور, کراچی آتے جاتے رہتے ہیں ایسے فیسٹیولز میں اور باقی کانفرنس میں, پلیٹ فارمس پہ, تو ینگ لوگوں جو ہمارے ایج کے ہیں ان سے انٹریکٹ کرتے ہیں. تو جب ہم بات کرنا شروع کرتے ہیں مسنگ پرسن سے ریلیٹڈ یا بلوچستان کے ایشو کے اوپر, تو وہاں سے پہلی جو بات آتی ہے وہ یہ آتی ہے کہ آپ کے سردار, آپ کے نواب آپ کے اسکول نہیں بننے دیتے اور یہ. تو میں یہ چاہتا تھا, میری یہ خواہش ہے کہ پورے پاکستان کو یہ بھی بتایا جائے کہ سردار میں اور نواب میں بھی فرق ہے. ایک وہ جو اسٹیٹ کے لیے کام کرتا ہے, جو اسٹیٹ بیکڈ ہے, جو صدیوں سے ان کے ساتھ ہی آتے جا رہے ہیں, انگریز کی صدیوں سے بھی وہ خریدے اور اس طرح جاتے ہیں, تو وہ ایک تاثر دیا جائے ہمارے پاکستانی قوم اور نوجوانوں کو.
This is the biggest myth جو بلوچستان کے بارے میں جتنے لوگ ابھی, اور ہم مسنگ بھی پتہ نہیں کیوں کہتے رہتے ہیں, بیکاز اٹس کائنڈ آف سم ہاؤ absorbs us. اردو میں جیسے کہتے ہیں کہ گمشدہ بلوچ, کہ جیسے وہ نکلا تھا دفتر سے, گھر آتے آتے کہیں اس کو رستہ بھول گیا تو وہ گم ہو گیا, یا he's gone missing. No, we know that he's been kidnapped. He's kidnapped by the state. اور جتنے لوگ ہیں ابھی تک مسنگ, فگرز پہ آپ کرتے رہیں ڈسپیوٹ جتنا بھی, سب کے سب ایجوکیٹڈ مڈل کلاس بلوچستان کی, اور بہت ٹائم ہے, سب کے سب یا تو ٹیچرز ہیں یا اسٹوڈنٹس ہیں.
بولا میڈیکل کالج میں
جی ہاں, ان میں سے کوئی سرداروں کے بچے جو ہیں وہ باہر بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں جو پہلے مار دیے گئے. باقی کوئی سرداری مسئلہ جو ہے اس میں کوئی نہیں ہے. یہ صرف اگر کوئی آپ کہ آپ لے کے جائیں, آپ کے بچے کو اٹھا کے لے جائیں, آپ پولیس کے پاس رپورٹ لے کے جائیں, تو وہ آپ سے کہیں کہ یار نہیں آپ تو شیخ ہوتے ہیں, تو شیخوں کو تو ایسی حرکتیں کرتے ہیں, یا آپ کی تو کلاس یہ ہے, یا آپ اس علاقے سے تعلق رکھتے ہیں کہ آپ تو why do we get into these debates کہ جب ایک کرائم ہوا ہے تمہیں, اب وہ بندہ جو آپ کے پاس اس کی رپورٹ لے کے آئے, آپ کہتے ہیں کہ نہیں یار وہ جو تمہارے جس علاقے میں رہتے ہو وہاں کے سردار بڑے خراب ہیں. I mean that I found that logic and rest of Pakistan and the media also kind of works with the same kind of logic کہ یہاں پہ کچھ اور مسئلہ ہے, کچھ سرداری قسم کا نظام ہے, تو اس کا یہ مطلب ہوتا ہے کہ جو بچہ ایم اے کا اسٹوڈنٹ ہے اس کو اٹھا کے لے جاؤ. I mean how does that even make sense to anyone? Sorry, it doesn't answer your question, but I want to make point. Yeah.
Kind of short, بس صرف یہ کہ جو ریٹ ایشوز اور پرابلمز جو آپ سمجھتے ہوں گے, باقی جرنلسٹ لوگ سمجھتے ہوں گے, تو وہ یہ کہ اس طرح کا میسج دیا جائے اور پاکستان کی یوتھ اور عوام میں وہ شعور دیا جائے کہ سردار میں کیا فرق ہے.
ہم بعد میں بات کرتے ہیں, کوئی اور بات کرنا چاہیے.
جی ہیلو جی, لیٹ می حنیف صاحب
جی
آن یور لیفٹ. حنیف صاحب
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم.
ہیلو جی, حنیف صاحب آن یور رائٹ ہیئر.
جی جی بولو.
کوشچن میرا یہ ہے کہ آپ نے ابھی فوج کے ریفرنس سے بات کی یا انٹیلیجنس ایجنسیز کے ریفرنس سے بات کی, جو چیز مجھے سمجھ نہیں آ رہی کہ فوج یا انٹیلیجنس ایجنسیز بلوچیوں کو جو آپ کہہ رہے ہیں کہ مار رہے ہیں اور پروفیشنلز کو, تو کیا کہ وہ سائیکو کلرز ہو گئے ہیں, سیڈسٹ ہو گئے ہیں, جبکہ ان کو پتہ ہے کہ جب وہ اتنی وکٹمز کی سٹوریز کریٹ کریں گے تو جو فوراً ہمارے اینیمیز ہیں وہ ان کو اپنے پرپز کے لیے یوز کریں گے. تو یہ بات مجھے سمجھ نہیں آتی کہ وہ یہ پرپز فلی یہ کیوں یہ کر رہے ہیں, اس کی کوئی ریزن مجھے بتائیں سائیکولوجیکل بیسس پہ.
ہمارا اینیمی کون ہے جو ہمارے اینیمیز یوز کریں گے؟ میرا خیال ہے ہم سب سے بڑے اپنے اینیمی تو خود ہی ہیں.
there are more questions to be asked from ourselves than from our mind. We have to answer this question ourselves as to how can we be absorbed of responsibility for this happening in Balochistan. We are also.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Thank you very much.